In this video, we're going to look at building a sticky footer like you can see here. So we've got the site content at the top and the footer at the bottom will always remain sticky as long as it's not being pushed down by the content in here. So let's jump straight over to the code and start building this. Okay, so over to my text editor now. I've got a blank document here, nothing in the body. We're going to be going in and filling in a couple of containers here. And in global.css, which is linked in on this page, there's also no content. So at the moment, this doesn't look like anything in the browser. We've not written much code. So let's go ahead and define the containers for both our content and the actual footer itself. Now I'm just going to be using, classes that I feel suitable for this video, but obviously in your application, you'd go ahead and use, perhaps give your footer a specific class or something. But I'm just going to go ahead and call the generic container that we're going to contain everything in, I'm going to call that wrapper. So all of your site main body content will go in here, and obviously this depends on if you're adding this to your page at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and also add a footer here. I'm not going to assign a class or an ID to it, but you might, it's a good idea to go ahead and do that because a footer could be a footer of an article, it could be a footer of your main site, so it might be a good idea to go and add a class here if you want. So let's go ahead and just fill some content in here. So here's the site content. And let's go ahead and fill in some footer content. Here's the footer content. So at the moment, this doesn't look like much. It will just appear one above the other. So what we need to do is go ahead and in global.css, like I said, I've linked this in. We're going to go ahead and start writing the code out here. So first of all, I'm going to target the HTML and body elements, and I'm going to set the height of both of these to 100%. I'm also going to go ahead and set the margin to 0. So you won't see the result of the 100% height, but you will see that the margins are now gone and that's just squashed against the side. We don't need to do this to achieve this hack, but it does just make the content sit against the edges. Let's go ahead and just change the color of the footer. So I'm going to say background color, and I'm going to choose cornflower blue for this, just so we can distinguish between the main site content and the footer. So that's changed that color there. So now we're going to go on to start looking at some of the hacks. So I'm going to target the wrapper class that we gave to our main content area, and this will basically just go ahead and set a minimum height of 100%. Now if we have a minimum height of 100%, obviously that means that it always has to be at least 100%. Let's go ahead and check out what this has done. So you can see now that that's pushed that content down there. Now we're not quite done yet because this isn't actually sticky. You can see it's been pushed off of the page and we've got scroll bars here. We want to aim for having no scroll bars at all. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to target the pseudo element after. And this is just going to let me go ahead and place blank content after, and I'm going to say display block. Now we're also going to target the wrapper after and the footer, and we're going to go ahead and give these both a height of 100 pixels. And then we'll go back to the wrapper and explain what we need to do here. Let's just go ahead and look at what this may have done. So you can see there's not much changed at all here, but what we're actually doing is we're setting the after pseudo element to display block rather than its default. So what we can now do is say wrapper after, but we can also go ahead and target the footer. Now what's going to happen here is we're going to give these a height of 100 pixels, and that's just going to obviously push the footer down by 100 pixels and also set the height of the footer to 100 pixels. Let's go ahead and examine this here. So you can see that the footer has been set to 100 pixels. If we just go ahead and inspect this, you can see that the wrapper, we have the wrapper here, and we have the after pseudo element as well. If we just scroll up a little bit, we can hover over this and see that the after pseudo element has a height of 100 pixels. And that's what's responsible for pushing this down, but as well as keeping space between the footer and the content within this element. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is go back to the wrapper and actually set a style which allows us to bring the footer up and remain sticky. So if I go ahead and close this and refresh, you can see that at the moment it's been pushed down here. What we need to do is we need to go ahead and set the wrapper to have a margin bottom of a minus value, which will then bring this footer upwards. So let's go ahead and do this now. So margin bottom minus 100 pixels, and we can go ahead and refresh, and you can see that that is now sticky to the bottom of the page. So that's how we create a fixed height sticky footer with CSS.